A half century of cycling. I'm Jeff Stein with today's Iowa Politics Report. This year marks the 50th anniversary ride for RAGBRAI, the Register's annual Great Bicycle Ride across Iowa. The general route and overnight host cities were announced Saturday night. One of the overnight stays this year will take place in my hometown of Toledo, which will host with its next-door neighbor, Tama. I recall when RAGBRAI first stayed overnight in the Toledo-Tama area. It was the seventh ride back in 1979, and I was a 16-year-old high school student barely able to drive. That year, cyclists came from Story City to Toledo and then rested and braced for the Century Ride the next day to Fairfield. The main campground was at the high school athletic complex, built squarely on the shared city limits line. That was a concession made in the middle 1960s when the two towns merged their schools into a regional consolidated district. The high school building is in Tama, but the parking lot and athletic complex is in Toledo. I have two vivid memories of that RAGBRAI visit. One had to do with serving food out of a remodeled trailer. My father was devoted to Lions Club efforts, and he was in charge of setting up a mobile lunch wagon that could be taken to various events to help raise funds for their various Lions Club projects. As I recall, the maiden voyage of the lunch wagon was at RAGBRAI in Toledo. I took orders at the window and passed them on to the back where my father and others cooked up grilled burgers, fries, and the like. He had built and operated an A&W in our hometown, so he knew his way around a grill. It's a 4-decade-old memory, but still a fond one. Even when they had to relight the pilot on the grill and just about sent me to a burn unit. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but not by much. My other memory is of meeting Donald Call for an interview on the grounds shortly before he left on the following day's ride. He was sipping a cup of coffee, looking around at this thing that had already grown well beyond expectations. I asked if I could interview him for the newspaper. He sized me up and said he charged for his interviews. I was not expecting that. I stammered and asked how much. He looked to a nearby vendor that was selling donuts and replied, "How about a donut?" The price then being agreed upon, we had a nice conversation despite my youthful nerves, and I enjoyed retelling all of that to him when I next saw him as a college student a half dozen years later. I still have a bright red souvenir t-shirt from that day at RAGBRAI 7. Here's hoping others back home and along the route have similar fond memories of ride number 50. And that's the Iowa Politics Report for Monday, January 30 on Twitter, Instagram, Getter, Parler, and Truth Social at Iowa Politics. I'm Jeff Stein on News Talk 1540 KXEL.